Welcome back to Different Perspectives. So glad to have you with us as we dive deep into a topic that's really creating a buzz. I mean, bots are everywhere in the business world these days, right? But what's the real deal with them? Like, how are businesses actually putting them to work to, well, get things done?
That's a really great question, and it's super relevant now more than ever. Businesses are finding all sorts of ways to use bots. And we're not just talking about those, simple customer service chatbots you see on websites everywhere. Those are definitely still around. But today, bots can automate so many tasks, analyze data, and even help make decisions.
Wow, that sounds like they've come a long way from just answering basic FAQs. So where do we even begin with all this?
Well, it's kind of like there are levels to how businesses are using bots, right? You've got your simple automation bots. Those are like the rookies. Then you move up to tech-oriented bots that handle more, I guess you could say more complex stuff. And then at the top, you have the AI-powered bots. Those are like the all-stars. They can learn and adapt as they go.
Okay, I'm already hooked. Let's start with those rookie bots, the basic automation ones. What exactly are they doing out there in the business world?
Think of them as like the workhorses. Not super flashy, but they're amazing at taking care of all those repetitive, time-consuming tasks that can really bog down employees. Things like sending reminders, updating spreadsheets, or even copying data between systems.
So they're basically giving employees more time and brain power to focus on the bigger picture stuff.
Right.
That sounds like a win for everyone involved.
Exactly. And to give you an idea of how this works in practice, there's this really interesting case study about a big retail chain. They were struggling with consistent communication across, get this, hundreds of stores. Think daily inventory updates, shift changes, announcements, all that. It was a real logistical nightmare to manage manually.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, just trying to coordinate a simple team meeting can be stressful, let alone keeping hundreds of stores on the same page. So how do they use bots to fix that?
Well, they got pretty creative and decided to build a simple Google Chatbot to automate all those regular announcements. So every morning, the bot sends out messages to every store team, reminding them about important things like inventory checks and when shifts start, kind of like having a little digital assistant for each store manager.
That's a pretty smart move. But did it really make a difference?
You bet it did. Just by automating those reminders, they saw a big drop in missed inventory checks, about 20% fewer. And think about what that means. Managing stock better, fewer lost sales because something's out of stock, and happier customers all around.
That's a serious improvement. But what about the store managers themselves? Did they feel like they were being replaced by robots?
Actually, it was the complete opposite. Because they were freed up from all those manual communication tasks, they had more time to focus on things that really mattered, like coaching their teams, spending time with customers, and just generally improving the whole shopping experience. They said they were saving around 30 minutes each day thanks to the bot.
That's a lot of extra time. So it's not just about things running more smoothly, but managers are less stressed and more engaged. No wonder businesses are getting excited about this.
And honestly, that's just the beginning. Now think about taking that same concept and integrating bots with, the systems the businesses already use and all that data they have. That's when things get really interesting. We call those tech-oriented bots, and they're operating on a whole new level.
Okay, I'm ready for level two. What makes these tech-oriented bots different from the basic ones?
Well, think of it this way. The basic bots are like solo artists doing their own thing. But tech-oriented bots, they're team players. They can connect to a bunch of different systems, pull data from all sorts of sources, and basically act as a central hub for all that information.
So, they're the ultimate multitaskers, bringing everything together. I can see how valuable that would be for businesses.
You got it. And to see this in action, there's another great case study, this one from a large healthcare provider. They were having a lot of trouble managing things like shift schedules for staff, appointment reminders for patients, and just general communication between departments. They had all this data stuck in different places, spreadsheets, calendars, all these internal systems. And it was creating delays, errors, and a lot of frustration.
Oh, I know that feeling. It's like when you're planning a trip and have your flight info in one app, hotel booking in another, and your itinerary scattered across emails. It's a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. And in healthcare, those kinds of problems can have really serious consequences. So they created a tech-oriented bot that could connect to all those different data sources and take over some key tasks. The bot pulls patient data from spreadsheets, schedules appointments based on when staff is available, and even sends out automated reminders to both patients and staff.
So they basically made a bot that's like a central nervous system for their whole operation, making sure information is flowing and everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. And the results were pretty amazing. The administrative staff saw a huge reduction in their workload, like 15 hours saved per week. And because everything was automated and streamlined, patient wait times went down, which is a win for everyone.
It's really cool how something as seemingly simple as this can have such a big impact on, well, everything. But I have to ask, are we talking about replacing human jobs here?
Not at all. Actually, the bot freed up the administrative staff to focus on more important things like interacting with patients and providing better customer service. It's about finding that right balance between what humans do best and what bots can handle.
Okay, now I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. It's not about humans versus bots. It's about humans and bots working together. Right. And speaking of doing things better, let's move on to those level 3 bots, the AI-powered ones. What makes them so different?
Those are the ones that can really learn and adapt on their own. They're not just following a pre-programmed set of instructions. They're actually analyzing data, finding patterns, and making predictions based on what they learn. It's like having a bot with its own brain.
That's where things start to sound like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. Do you have a real-world example of how these AI bots are actually being used?
Definitely. Let's take a look at the world of finance. It's all about data, deadlines, and staying one step ahead. This particular firm was having a really hard time keeping up with all the client accounts they had and, all those complex reporting deadlines. Missing deadlines was always a worry, and they were always reacting to problems instead of getting ahead of them.
Yeah, I can see how that would be a big problem in such a fast-paced industry. So how did AI come to the rescue?
They created an AI-powered bot that could actually predict when deadlines were coming up. It would look at all the past data on when tasks were completed and then send out personalized alerts to the team, reminding them what to do and when.
So like a personal assistant who's always making sure nothing falls through the cracks.
Exactly. And it goes even further than that. The bot can also personalize communication with clients, sending them tailored messages based on what each client needs and prefers.
Wow, that's really something. So instead of those generic mass emails, they can really connect with each client. I bet that made a big difference.
Oh, definitely. They saw way more engagement from clients, and they were able to catch potential problems before they became real issues. And the best part, the financial analysts were free from all those boring administrative tasks and could focus on more strategic, big picture stuff.
It really sounds like AI is changing everything. I'm starting to see all kinds of possibilities here, but I got to admit, it's a little overwhelming. Where do you even begin to understand how to create and use all of this?
And that's what we'll be getting into in our next part.
That's where things get really fun.
You bet. Stick with us. All right, so welcome back. Now let's kind of, roll up our sleeves and get a little geeky, dive into the code that makes these bots tick. It's like peeking behind the curtain and seeing how the magic happens.
I'm all for getting geeky. We've
Oh.
talked about what bots can do, but I'm really curious about how they actually do it.
I hear ya. And you know what's really cool? The coding concepts we're going to talk about, they apply to all those different levels of bots we discussed, from those simple automation ones all the way up to the AI-powered superstars.
So no matter your coding experience, there's something to learn here.
Absolutely. So let's start with the very foundation of any bot, sending and receiving messages. Remember that retail case study with the Google Chatbot? The one that sent out those inventory check reminders?
Yeah, the one that saved those managers so much time.
That's the one. At its heart, that bot's code, it was really all about sending out those messages at a specific time each day. And they used Google Apps Script for that because it's like perfect for working within the Google world.
Right, because Google Apps Script is that scripting language made specifically for Google Workspace apps.
Yeah. You got it. Now imagine you're looking at the actual code. The first part is what's called a function, and they named this one send daily announcement. Basically, it's a set of instructions that tells the bot exactly what to do. So in this case, it tells the bot what to write in the message, the reminder about inventory checks and stuff. And then it says who to send it to, which is that Google chat space for each store's team.
So it's kind of like writing a note and putting it in the right mailbox.
Haha, yeah, that's a great way to think about it. But how does that note actually get delivered? Well, that's where something called an API comes in. It stands for Application Programming Interface. But honestly, don't let that jargon scare you off.
All right, no worries, I'm listening. What's an API in simple terms?
Think of it like a universal translator for different applications. It's like a set of rules that allows programs to talk to each other. even if they were built by totally different companies or use completely different programming languages.
So it's like a common language that everyone can understand, no matter where they come from.
You got it. So in this case, the bot uses the Google Chat API to actually send out that message. It's like using a postal service to deliver your note.
Okay, that makes sense. But the bot can't just send the message whenever it wants, right? It has to be scheduled for a specific time. How do they make that happen?
That's where the magic of automation really shines. They use another function called, and get ready for this, create daily trigger. This function sets up a timed trigger, like an alarm clock, that tells the bot, hey, every day at 9 a.m., run that send daily announcement function and send out those
Sounds
reminders.
like setting an alarm for the bot. And once that alarm goes off, bam, it knows exactly what to do.
Exactly. And that's the best part, right? Once you set those triggers, the bot just takes care of everything automatically. No more manual reminders, no more missed deadlines.
Wow, I'm seeing how even a little code can make a huge difference. But sending messages is just one thing, right? What about those more advanced bots, the tech-oriented ones that can connect to different systems and pull data from different sources? How do they do all that?
For those more complex bots, developers often use a programming language called Python. It's really versatile and has a ton of libraries and frameworks that make it easier to work with data, build web applications, and even do really cool AI stuff.
Okay, hang on. Starting to lose me a little with all the technical terms. What's a library in this context? Is it like a library with books, but for code?
Haha, yeah, that's a great way to think about it. A Python library is basically a collection of pre-written code modules that you can use for specific tasks. It's like having a toolbox with specialized tools you can use when building your bot.
Oh, I get it. So instead of writing every single line of code yourself, you can just grab what you need from the library.
You got it. And Python has libraries for pretty much anything you can think of, working with spreadsheets, processing images, analyzing text, connecting to databases, the list goes on and on.
That's amazing. So with Python and these libraries, you can create bots that can do way more than just send simple messages. They can actually interact with all kinds of data and systems.
Exactly. Remember that healthcare case study, the one where the bot pulled patient data from spreadsheets, scheduled appointments, and sent reminders? That's all thanks to Python and a bunch of different libraries working together.
That's so cool. It's amazing to see how powerful all of this can be. But what about the most advanced bots, the AI-powered ones? They almost seem magical. How do developers even begin to create something like that?
That's where we get into the world of machine learning. It's basically a type of artificial intelligence that allows computers to learn from data, without being specifically programmed for every single situation.
Okay, I've heard that term a lot, but not sure I really get it. Can you explain it in a way that even someone like me who's not a tech expert can understand?
Totally. Imagine you're teaching a dog a new trick. You're not going to give it a step-by-step instruction manual, right? Instead, you show it what to do, give it a treat when it does it right, and maybe correct it when it makes a mistake. Over time, the dog picks up on the patterns, learns from the feedback, and eventually masters the trick.
So it's kind of like training a bot to think for itself by feeding it a bunch of data and letting it figure things out.
That's a really good way to put it. In that finance case study, the developers used something called machine learning libraries, which are basically specialized toolboxes for AI. They trained the bot on all that historical data about when tasks were completed. This allowed the bot to learn from those past patterns and then use what it learned to predict future deadlines and send those personalized alerts.
So the bot's not just following a rigid set of rules. It's actually learning and getting smarter over time,
Yeah.
all based on the data it sees. That's incredible.
It really is. And you know what? The more data it processes, the more accurate and sophisticated it becomes. It's like watching a student grow into a true expert.
This is all so fascinating, but I have to admit it's also a bit daunting. Coding, APIs, machine learning, it feels like there's so much to learn. Where should a total beginner even start?
Don't worry, it's not as overwhelming as it might seem. The trick is to just take it one step at a time. Start with those coding basics, then learn how to use those APIs, and gradually explore the world of machine learning. There are a ton of resources and tutorials online. And trust me, the more you practice, the more comfortable you'll become.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah.
I'm definitely inspired to start learning more. But before we get too lost in all the technical details, let's step back and talk about the big picture. What does this whole bot revolution mean for businesses?
That's a great idea because as cool as the technology is, it's important to understand how it's impacting businesses and creating those new opportunities.
Exactly. All right, so we've really gone deep into how these bots work, from sending those simple messages to all the complexities of AI and machine learning. Now I think it's time to kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture. What does this whole bot revolution really mean for businesses?
It's pretty amazing when you think about it. Bots, they're not just some like passing trend in tech.
Hmm.
They're really changing how we think about work and productivity. I mean, we've seen how they can make things run smoother, boost efficiency, and even create better experiences for those customers, right?
Absolutely. And those case studies, they really show those benefits in action. We're not talking about like vague improvements. It's real measurable stuff like getting more tasks done, higher customer engagement, even happier employees.
Exactly. Let's go back to that retail case study for a second.
Yeah.
Remember how they saw that 20% drop in missed inventory checks? Well, that goes straight to the bottom line, saving money and making sure they have what customers want. And those 30 minutes each store manager saved, that's time they can spend on things that make a difference, like working with their teams and building relationships with customers.
Yeah, it's like this ripple effect. Take away those boring, repetitive tasks, and suddenly employees have the time and energy to
Yeah.
focus on things that really matter. It's not about replacing people. It's about helping people do their best work.
That's the key, right? Bots are letting businesses rethink how they use their workforce. It frees people up to focus on what humans are really good at, things like creativity, critical thinking, all those things that make us human.
So it's about creating this partnership where humans and bots work together, each playing to their strengths. But, let's be real for a minute. Putting bots to work effectively, it's not exactly a piece of cake, is it?
You're absolutely right. You need to plan it out, be strategic, and really understand what your business needs. It's not like you can just throw bots at a problem and hope for the best. You have to know where they'll make the biggest difference, choose the right technology, and make sure it all works smoothly with what you're already doing.
So it's not just about jumping on the bandwagon, right? It's
Yeah.
about making smart decisions.
Yes, exactly. And something else that's super important. Get your employees involved from the very beginning. Be open about how you're using bots, listen to their concerns, and give them the training they need to adapt to this new way of working.
It's all about working together, humans and bots, as a team. This all sounds amazing, but I gotta ask, are there any downsides or risks we should be thinking about? I mean, we've all seen those movies where robots take over the world.
Haha, that's a good question. And it's smart to be aware of the potential challenges. Like with any powerful technology, we have to use bots responsibly, ethically. We have to think about things like data privacy, make sure those algorithms are fair, and consider what it all means for jobs.
It's a reminder that technology is a tool, right? We have to
Mhm.
use it wisely.
Couldn't agree more. It's about finding that balance between doing new things and doing them responsibly.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of bots, what are the big takeaways you'd leave with our listeners?
Well, I think the main one is that bots are here to stay. They're changing the game for businesses, and it's exciting. They have so much potential to make things better, more efficient, but we got to approach it strategically, ethically, and remember, it's all about collaboration. The future of work, it's about humans and bots working side by side, and honestly, I can't wait to see what we can achieve together.
That's a great point to end on. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling inspired and ready to take another look at all this bot stuff. And to our listeners, thanks for being here for different perspectives. We'll catch you on our next deep dive. Until then, keep exploring and keep learning.